Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3, back here with another video, and welcome to the month of July for my July Retro Pay-Per-View review. For the month of July, I chose to do WWE's Night of Champions 2009. Originally, I was planning to do the Bash from 2009, but since that was a June show and I already had done One Night Stand 2008, I ended up going with Night of Champions 2009 instead, due to it being a show that took place in July. But don't worry, wrestling fans, I got you covered for July. And of course, the show took place on July 26, 2009 at the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's right, we're in ECW territory. Yes, we're in the home of Extreme, people, here at the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia for Night of Champions. And we got, for Monday Night Raw, you got Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler for Monday Night Raw. For SmackDown, you got Jim Ross and Todd Grisham for the folks for the commentary team of Friday Night SmackDown. And then for ECW, you got Matt Striker and Josh Matthews. Alright. Opening contest. You have Legacies. Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase challenging Chris Jericho and a partner of his choosing for the World Tag Team Championships. For the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships, because this is the part of because in 2009 they unified the WWE Tag Team Championships, or both sets of tag titles that the WWE had. Chris Jericho says, "Before I introduce my new partner, I want to thank Edge." You know, he basically shows a video of Edge and everything. Edge goes down with an ankle injury here. Edge went down with an ankle injury because last month at the Bash, Jericho and Edge captured the tag team titles, but then Edge came down with an injury. And then it's Edge talking about how he plans to, when he comes back, to become a champion again. But then Jericho said that Edge was weak, and I needed someone stronger. So, let me introduce to you my tag team partner, The Big Show. So out comes The Big Show. And man, this is the debut of Jericho here. This is when The Big Show and Chris Jericho had formed their tag team Tennant in 2009, as they took on another heel team of Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. So you got two sets of heels facing each other for the tag team titles. And this was not that great of a match. Big Show put DiBiase in the Giant's clutch, if you will. It's like a camel clutch, but, except it's called the Giant's clutch because, the Big Show is the one who ends up getting the victory for Chris Jericho and him. So, overall, like I said, it wasn't that great of a match, because you didn't have that babyface and heel dynamic, because there was no faces in this match. And Big Show and Chris Jericho would go on to retain the tag team titles. So yes, where Edge goes down with injury, it leads to Big Show having to fill his boots, so to speak. Next up, we are going into an interview backstage with CM Punk, the World Heavyweight Champion, as he's being interviewed. CM Punk, he basically says he comes out to speak to the fans of Philadelphia as he's walking down the hallway and into the arena. He's in the crowd, he's cutting this promo, he's basically saying to the parents to just say no to Jeff Hardy's lifestyle and say yes to the straight edge living to the straight edge living that CM Punk lives like. To basically say yes to CM Punk's type of lifestyle of not drinking, smoking, doing drugs, and all that stuff. He also berates the parents for how they let their kids, look up to a guy like Jeff Hardy. So, man, Punk really knows how to get under people's skins really well. There's a good reason why he's one of the best mic talkers, of this generation of wrestling. And this was ahead of his world title match with Jeff Hardy. Our next match is Christian defeating Tommy Dreamer. That's right. So it's babyface versus babyface for the ECW Championship. So Tommy Dreamer comes in, and he's getting a big reception because it's Philadelphia. It's the home of Extreme. He's an ECW original. He's like the very last ECW original left in the company in 2009, mind you. He's the very last remnant of the original ECW. And he's taking on Christian. And, the fans also got to show their support for Christian as well. So, Christian just got just as much of a pop as Tommy Dreamer did. And, of course, there was this match. Now, I know Tommy Dreamer isn't really known for being a technical wrestler. Most of his best matches always involved weapons. I mean, he's the innovator of violence. So, of course, Tommy was always about using weapons because, that was the ECW style. And this was just a regular wrestling match, but, seeing Tommy use a Texas Cloverleaf on Christian in this match was actually pretty good. Just see that one part of the match I just liked watching. But Christian managed to persevere and hit the kill switch 1, 2, 3. And Christian captures the ECW Championship again. So yes, yet again, Christian is your ECW Champion. And, of course, we got the show of sportsmanship between Tommy and Christian at the end. So, I don't mind that sign of sportsmanship. Sure, the match wasn't great, but not to say Christian wasn't a good wrestler, because Christian was a great wrestler. But, with Tommy, on the other hand, there was only so much you could do with a guy like Tommy, though. But still, it was still a highlight. The fans in Philly liked it because, you have a hometown guy in Tommy Dreamer, because this is the land of Extreme after all. This is the home of Extreme. Alright, well, now we're getting into our next match. Yet again from Monday Night Raw. It is the U.S. Championship being defended as Kofi Kingston defeats Jack Swagger, The Miz, Carlito, Primo, and MVP to retain the United States Championship. This wasn't that great of a match. It was fine for what it was. Primo and Carlito, they had a falling out after they lost the tag team titles to Edge and Jericho. We all know Primo and Carlito had a falling out. Jack Swagger was in this match. I don't care much for Swagger. Like, did anyone really care much for Swagger? And what did WWE see in this guy to actually want to try to make him one of their next big stars? Anyway, Kofi ended up retaining, hitting the Trouble in Paradise, and he ends up retaining the title. So, I'm glad Kofi walked out of this match still champion, so I guess I can't complain too much. Alright, so next up, we're getting into our next match, and it is for the WWE Women's Championship as Michelle McCool defeats Melina to retain the Women's Championship. Now, I've said this a lot during this year, but I'm not the biggest Melina fan. I don't know, I just never got into Melina, whether it was her with Eminem or whether she was by herself. I didn't really seem to care much for her at all. You know, I don't hate her as a person, I just didn't like her as a wrestler. I just don't know. I guess the Melina character is what I meant to say that I really didn't like. All that screaming. All that screaming can get kind of annoying when Melina screams. But yeah, Michelle ended up retaining. You know, the fans, they were all behind Melina, but I'm not the biggest Melina fan, so it is what it is. Our next match is going to be for the WWE Championship, as champion Randy Orton defends against Triple H and John Cena in a triple threat match. Of course, yes, this is the second time these three have been in a triple threat match. The last time I talked about their match at WrestleMania back in March. So, what's different about this match? Well, unlike the WrestleMania match, you have Legacy who gets involved. Legacy, we saw them a few times tonight already. We saw them earlier in the opening match. We saw them again giving their interview about how they came up short against Jericho. And now they talked about, helping out Randy Orton. And they managed to do so to help out Randy so that Randy could retain the WWE Championship. Legacy was very effective here. John Cena tries to hit Cody Rhodes with the Attitude Adjustment, or the FU, but it was by this point called the Attitude Adjustment. But Randy Orton hits the RKO on Cena before he hits the Attitude Adjustment. Orton goes for the cover, 1, 2, 3, and he retains the WWE Championship. So this was probably the best match so far on this show after some of the disappointing matches we had on this show. Now we cut backstage and we see The Miz and Maurice talk. And we see The Miz come up to Maurice and, Maurice talks about how The Miz lost earlier in that six-pack challenge for the U.S. title, but then Miz calls her a loser and hopes that Mickie James would beat her. And that's what happens in this next match, as Mickie James defeats Maurice to capture the Divas Championship. Now, yeah. Mickie ends up winning this match, and it's the Divas title. This was the secondary women's championship that was introduced. It would last between 2009 to 2016. Yeah, it took till 2016 to finally retire the stupid butterfly. And we still gotta be reminded of that stupid butterfly belt's existence. But, I'm glad Mickie was the one who ended up taking the title off of Maurice. Yeah! There's still some left for you. Coming up next, we got a match for the Intercontinental Championship, as Rey Mysterio defends against Dolph Ziggler. Now, for weeks, Dolph Ziggler had been showing up and attacking Rey Mysterio. Dolph had debuted recently, and of course, he had to set his sights on Rey Mysterio. An easy target. And it's not mainly because with Ray, why I call him an easy target for people to get heel heat is because Ray is just the ultimate straight-laced babyface. He's the perfect babyface. Ray, Ray will, fans never want to boo this guy. WCW tried back in the early 2000s to try to get us to boo Rey Mysterio. And that failed during the dying days of WCW, because they wanted to try to, because with Vince Russo, wanted to try to turn Ray heel. And that didn't work. You really can't, Ray just couldn't sell it as a bad guy. He really couldn't. And then here is Dolph Ziggler. He's young, he's fresh, he's new. He's taking on the seasoned vet of Rey Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship. And you got, Maria Kanellis, with Dolph. She's Dolph's arm candy. She's Dolph's valet. Maria Kanellis. And this was a really solid match. A really good match. Second best match we've had so far on the show. Because the show has been kind of lackluster except for the WWE title match and this match that would come. But then, of course, Ray would counter Dolph, hit the 619, Rey Mysterio retains 1, 2, 3, and he is still your Intercontinental Champion. I gotta say, Rey Mysterio in 2009, this was prime Rey Mysterio. This was Rey Mysterio at his peak. 2009, I think, was Ray at his absolute peak. Not to say Ray still had some great matches before and after 2009, but there's just something about Rey Mysterio in 2009, especially having some of his best matches ever. He had this match with Ziggler, and then he would follow that up with their opening match at SummerSlam. Next up, we get into the World Heavyweight Championship match as champion CM Punk defends against challenger Jeff Hardy. This all started back at Extreme Rules when CM Punk cashed in his Money in the Bank contract on a weakened Jeff Hardy after Jeff had just fought like hell in a ladder match at Extreme Rules against Edge. So after Jeff had dethroned Edge, Punk comes in like a vulture, cashes in the Money in the Bank contract, and he takes the World Heavyweight Championship from Jeff Hardy. Then Jeff would incite his rematch clause at the Bash. And during their match, and how their match at the Bash ended, Punk would end up striking the referee in the back, leading to him getting disqualified. And because Punk had championship's advantage, that means the title could not change hands on a disqualification or countout. So Punk... But then, of course, there's Punk's integrity being questioned by Jeff, who basically questions Punk's integrity, saying that you did that on purpose. And Punk continues to berate Jeff about how he can't support himself and how his straight edge lifestyle is superior to his, and how Jeff should just say no. But Jeff, refuses to just give in and says that, no, I live the life I choose. I choose to live on the edge. And now, the man who's gonna beat you will be Jeff Hardy! And now we get into this world title match. This was a great wrestling match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff and Punk on the perfect sides. so many different counters, so many reversals. The match went either way, but then could have gone either way. But then Punk, after he hit Jeff with a GTS, Jeff kicked out of the GTS, and Punk tries to get himself disqualified or counted out. I meant to say Punk tries to take the easy way out and get himself counted out. But then Jeff drags Punk back into the ring, starts beating on Punk into the corner, hits the twist of fate, and then the swanton. 1, 2, 3, and Jeff Hardy is the World Heavyweight Champion yet again. So Jeff has finally recaptured the World Heavyweight Championship, and what felt like it was his last chance, mind you, he does it in Philadelphia, in the land of extreme. The fans were all behind Jeff. You have a whole pro Jeff Hardy crowd here. I mean, we had some CM Punk fans, but this entire night was pro Jeff Hardy. The fans were all behind Jeff Hardy. So, yeah, that was Night of Champions 2009. Final thoughts? Well, it had a really disappointing undercard for most of it. I mean, not to say there were three good matches upon this show, but there were some really lackluster matches on this show too. I mean, good thing we would get SummerSlam that would follow this up, and SummerSlam would be a heck of a lot better. Anyway, this has been your Digital Super Saiyan 3, and I will see you guys in August when I finally do SummerSlam from 2008. That's right, we're going to be returning to 2008 with SummerSlam. See ya!